What's the worst thing that can happen if Brexit does actually become a reality? How do you feel about your marriage?
As useful as tits on a nun.
You hear people that say, there's one thing I don't do politics. I don't even want to follow it. I don't want to do anything. I'm sorry, if you're an entrepreneur, you're paying taxes, you better pay attention to politics because one regulation could affect your business.
That's the top of my head, and that's my brain.
Are you kidding me?
If Islam is so fantastic, why do Muslims always come to Christian countries for refuge?
So one of the things I want to do with the Valuetainment audience is kind of get us educated on what's happening around the world. I know a lot of times it's a lot of US interviews we do. I decided to go to London. We are in London right now and meet with somebody who I think every time she tweets something, half of UK goes crazy on what she says. She's got a lot of different nicknames, a lot of things people call her. Katie Hopkins. We're going to talk about people who don't like exercise too much. We're going to talk a little politics. We're going to talk a little bit about moms, maybe a little bit of feminism, a little bit of taxes, Brexit, a little bit of all that stuff today with Katie Hopkins. Katie, thank you so much
for
making the time. I really enjoyed the latte we had earlier.
We did. I introduced you to latte.
You are amazing. Well, but it's not coffee, right? It was a decaf.
No, you don't drink coffee, so we've had to slightly backpedal on that it definitely wasn't a coffee that I gave you.
And what was interesting is, Katie says, I have a tendency of losing things. I just have a tendency of leaving things behind. I said, I'm so embarrassed to say, I just lost my wallet. And she says, no. So she was kind enough. We called the driver. She's talking to the driver and the people. They were just a whole different experience. But
we found your wallet.
We found my wallet.
We found your wallet. And that's the instant thing is when I have somebody who's now an instant friend, I will fight like a little lioness to solve their problems.
That was amazing seeing you in action, by the way. See, that's the stuff that people don't see behind camera on how somebody is. That was just fascinating to see that.
No, but I'll fix it. If there's a problem, I can fix it.
So why don't we get into it? I look at people and I study personalities because I'm curious. I'm so curious about how people are and what made them the way they are. You're somebody that's, you seem very comfortable in your own skin and the opinions that you say things that rattles a lot of people out there. Before going into some of your opinions, this is a simple question for you. If you and I were in high school together, you're 16, 17, I'm 16, 17. Who's Katie Hopkins?
At high school, 16, 17, Katie Hopkins is, never talk about yourself in the third person, right? Is finding school pretty easy. So it's not hard to get straight A's as it was then before you had A stars. I'm in the netball team. I've done my grade 8 violin, my grade 8 piano. Stuff's not hard for me in terms of getting the grades I'm supposed to get and getting the marks I'm supposed to get and having certificates for my parents to put on the wall. And I'm walking to and from school every day. I have a normal family house with a mum and dad that are still together now, amazingly all these years later. I've always been together. Mum's a housewife and my father worked on the electrical pylons, like the overhead cables. So super normal girl. And my high school was run by nuns, which is the one thing. So I went to a Catholic, I know. So for all of my hideous reputation, in many different regards, I was brought up by nuns. So I hold the nuns largely responsible for my poor behaviour ever since.
Blame it on the nuns.
Always. And I never knew, who decided that nuns could teach? Someone just went, a nun, she must be a teacher. Who does that? Who decided nuns could teach? No one ever decided that for monks, particularly. Never had boys' schools run by monks. But anyway, yes, I went to a convent girls' school and I was never allowed to be the Virgin Mary for any number of reasons. But at the Christmas play, you could only be Virgin Mary if you were a Catholic. And I had so I'm left-handed. I used to, Sister Bede, Form 3, I still remember her. She used to tie my left hand up behind my back because good people wrote with their right hand.
Because good people wrote with
their
right hand.
I'm only 42 as well. I'm telling stories like I'm 68.
Wow.
Yeah, hardcore.
And
school.
You remember that? You remember that vividly?
Yeah, I can remember that whole having to stay in and practice writing with a hand I don't write with.
I grew up thinking left-handed people were special people. They always I'm being serious with you. They have an edge.
We do.
It's a chip. Hey, I'm different, and that makes me.
Yes, and I have a daughter that's just like me. She's left-handed too. No, I definitely identify with left-handed people, but maybe that's why the nuns wanted to beat
Kind
it
of push
out
you around
of
a
you.
little bit?
Yeah.
Interesting. So in your family, if I'm having dinner at your house, mom, dad, electrical engineer, stay-home mom, were there debates? Did you talk politics? Did you
No.
talk sports? Nothing.
So one thing, at 5 to 5, you'd be sat down, and I'd be sat down, my sister, my mum, and then my dad would sit down at 5 o'clock, dinner, always, no change. 5 o'clock dinner on the table.
What was the conversation?
I don't even remember us talking about stuff. We must have talked about school and normal things.
Normal
It wasn't this
Got
kind
it.
of crazy debate.
So it's not like sit there and say, did you hear what he said? What do you think about this political thing
No.
that's going on? Not at all.
Not at all. And certainly with my kids now, I know that we can talk about all sorts
Yeah.
of things, and I'll ask them, did you see about, the volcano, or did you hear about the, and I'll check that they have dialed into stuff I think they should know. But I don't remember that about my childhood. I do remember not being able to leave my plate until it was finished, 100%.
Was that mom, dad, or both?
Both.
Who was the discipline?
Both of them, but particularly we were scared of my dad in terms of, he was the figure of the family that you didn't mess with. And I don't regret that or want to change that. That was how it was. We knew where we stood. Steak and kidney pie. That's what I remember, the bits of kidney, sitting looking at them, wondering how to get out of that. So very normal, very standard, it's why I quite like order, discipline, people doing what makes sense in order to get an end result, because with a lot of my growing up, do enough of the work, you'll get an A, no problem. Play the violin hard enough, you'll get a distinction at grade 8, no problem. Like, I understand what you have to
Systems.
do. Yes, systems, processes, rules.
And you were comfortable with that?
I get them.
My dad said, we have 3 kids, 6, 5, and a 2-year-old. My dad says kids need systems because it's a level of predictability that gives them trust and peace. So it's amazing how you're saying that with
I
systems
think it's
and
true, and
processes.
I almost wonder whether my super normal upbringing, where mum and dad worked a lot of hours to be able to get me and my sister to the school that I slightly took the mickey out of, but maybe that super normal upbringing is what gives you enough space in your head and your mind to then go on and kind of burst out.
Where did the chip come out? Where did the chip come? Because almost everybody I see that's chippy or a little bit confrontational, comfortably confrontational, kind of like yourself,
Yes.
there is an event. There is something happened that, triggered something. I don't know what it was. I mean, I know for yourself, when you were coming up, you wanted to go to Oxford, some things happened
Yes.
there, and then you wanted to do military, you went military, there was some things health-wise at the end.
Yes.
When did your chippiness, what event? Was there any event that you remember or no?
Yeah, I think my chippiness is because at 17 I was diagnosed with epilepsy or suspected epilepsy, and that was the start of a 20-year epilepsy,
Wow,
kind of
20
lifetime with epilepsy until recently, and those fits got more and more significant. So it's almost always been, all of my life actually, hiding an illness that I didn't want anyone to know about, overcoming the things that may have kept me back because of that epilepsy, and then determined to be better than that and be anybody else. And that's definitely where my chippiness is. That's why I had to leave after I passed out of Sandhurst, because they found out I had epilepsy. And it's what I've been pretending I didn't have all of my life whilst going on and being on The Apprentice or being this person or standing up and speaking to 2,000 people. It's always been about, you don't know I'm epileptic. You don't know I dislocated both my arms in the night with a fit. And look, this is me. And so running and all of that stuff, all the fitness stuff was always about knowing that actually secretly I was probably weaker than a lot of people, but needing to have a front that was ultimately strong.
Wow, and that's so interesting. I think you said something where every 10 days your arms, your elbows would, and that lasted for like what, 2 years, a couple of years that lasted. You were going
It was
through.
in that back end of so I don't have fit. How squeamish are you?
No.
Okay, so this is not too weird. I'm not about to put your hand somewhere really bad. I saw the fear in your eyes, like, where's this hand going?
So that's the
Oh
top of
my
my
God, are you
head,
kidding
and that's my brain.
Are you kidding me?
So I'm like a little egg now with no shell.
That's the surgery?
The surgery that cured me of the epilepsy, so I no longer have
I
any
mean, it
fits.
is soft. It's
That's
not
my
even
brain.
That's your brain I touch, right?
Yes. So they go in with a circular saw. There was a team of 12. It took like 18 hours. And they saw the top of your head off. And then they open up your skull. They go in. I don't know what this is. I presume it's some sort of shovel. They go in like a miner in a tunnel. And they got out this sort of tumour thing that was causing my epilepsy. Got rid of it. Then they do put that flap back in. But mine went really manky which is a medical term for meningitis. And so they went back in and threw it away. So that's just my brain. I just trot about with.
So what do they tell you to protect, to safety? What are?
Oh, I can get a titanium one. There's one in the printer already at the hospital. So a titanium rooftop.
What was the risk? Was it to the point where you were so sick and tired of experiencing this for 20 years, you were like, I'm either going to do it, it may cost me my life, but I can't live like that. Were you at that point?
Yeah, so I had 2 years was the span. They said that a fit would get me within a 2-year time frame. And so every morning, because I used to be on the road, determined, I would text my mum, I'm here, and text my husband, I'm here. And it's funny, I still go to my phone now and go, I'm here, but then I'm like, I don't need to tell anyone I'm here. They know I'm here, because that was just about letting people know I'd got through the night. So I was just saying I'm here in the morning because my mum would need to check. And then, my fits used to dislocate both my arms out of their sockets, but I've had them re-sewn on now, so I'm like Terminator Hopkins.
And you're good now. You feel good.
This is this is part of the other reason for this phase is now I'm of epic proportions in my head because I've got a whole new life.
What's changed? What have you noticed after the procedure changed that maybe you didn't have before?
I can go to sleep and not fear. I wake up and don't have to text people that I'm alive. I don't have to wonder if I'll have arms in the morning or not. I don't bite my tongue off anymore. But that's why small things like being called names, they have on a scale of perspective, I've been gifted perspective.
And doesn't bother you?
Life has some enormity to it, and brain surgery is fairly enormous. So it was left arm, the deficit, so you could lose your left arm, left leg, sight or speech were my risks. So I got all of that back. So that's why I feel like I have a purpose.
Oh my gosh! Of course, especially if your gift is speaking and communicating a message that you have in your mind. It's like taking a person who's a writer and you take their arms out. How am I going to express myself?
Yes.
So it's a very powerful thing. My good friend Robert Greene, author, he just finished his book Laws of Human Nature, and he had a big stroke right after finishing the book, and his entire left side. When you see the interview, this is how he moves his arm. This is how he moves it. He moves his leg like that. And we were talking. I said he sincerely seemed concerned because it's Patrick. The way I've been expressing myself last 30 years is through writing.
Yes.
And he's, and you can see the struggle of somebody that's got so much to offer, but they're going through this. So I can see how that probably had an effect on. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that.
No, not at all. I don't speak about it very much because A, it's long and convoluted, and B, it's a side of me that I always kept hidden, so it doesn't really come into play. But I think it's a secret that I kept for so long, and now I'm better. Maybe I'm able to talk about it because I don't feel strange anymore.
So sometimes, for example, I had to make a 180 of my life, right? I was a kid that was coming up and I was seen as this guy who was a party guy. You go party with me, you're gonna have a great time and we're gonna go do all this stuff. And then one day I switched, and so all my circle, everybody who knew me was like, wait a minute, what happened to you? We don't like this new guy. Why are you so serious? Why are you so determined to go out there and win? I had a chip myself as one on an experience that took place. Do you think the world expected Katie to be Katie? And is there anything about Katie that you want to change now, or you're comfortable with the Katie that was before and the Katie that is there a Katie 3.0, 4.0 that?
I think this is an evolution now. So I don't think I've done a 180, but I think I've allowed this other me, this epileptic me, the me that worried about not being around for my kids, the me that was in the casualty or A&E or ER to your guys at 3 a.m, having her shoulders put back in. That I've allowed her to catch up, or maybe I've allowed big, strong Katie to come back and those two people be identifying the same person. I've allowed those two people to be the same, hence I'm able to speak about this openly. I wouldn't ever bore someone with this at dinner, just for reassurance if anyone's ever thinking of inviting me to dinner. It's not a story I tell. But I've allowed those two people now to join up, and I think it's a much more honest me, and it's also a me that other people, they get this part of me. I wrote about it in my book, and people then went on and bought the book for their friends who maybe were undergoing chemo or a really horrible divorce or had just lost their job and were feeling rubbish about themselves. And it became a kind of book for people that saw, actually, we all have a bit of a rubbish time and we can come on after that. So it became like a nice thing.
Unfortunately, most of us are not comfortable bringing it out and talking about it because we have to have that facade and cover ourselves up, because in case we show a certain level of weakness, because you know the whole saying, you can never show weakness, never show hurt, never show this.
And I agree with that still.
I do as well.
Yeah.
I 100% do.
I do.
But I think from my perspective is I like a person's human side. When I see it and I say, wow, I respect your opinions, but I now connect with you on the human side. I don't connect with you on, let's just say, whatever, whatever opinion you got on what life. But I connect with you with the pain.
Yes.
I'm there, so at least we have something in common.
And I think that's true for a lot of people that know a bit about me or know me or have met me or meet me in the street, and they can say, oh, I thought I hated you, but actually, or they'll come and listen to a talk, and I get people at the start, right, hands up who thinks I'm a cow, you know, and the whole room will be like, or people will start to be bravely like, yeah, I think you're a cow. And but then by the end, people will come up and say, it's really annoying now. I came here and I really wanted to hate you, and I realised I can't hate you as much as I thought I did. So there's that. But I still say, you know, that our lives are such that the evolution of a person, you know, at a certain age, you can be this person. I've been able to reconcile epileptic me and big, bold, annoying me, and that's the same now. But for those early years, the 20s, the 30s, do I regret being that bolshy, nothing's going to stop me, epilepsy won't beat me person? No, not at all. I think that was intrinsic to
part of your identity.
Surviving.
Would
I wanted to be sorry for myself and take disability benefits and tell employers I've got epilepsy so they didn't hire me? Not a chance.
Well, respect for you to staying true to your core principles, which is solid. So why don't we go into that and talk about some of those principles? It's a wide range, right? And I think, why don't we just start off with something basic right now? We'll talk about different topics and you give me your thoughts and we'll banter a little bit and then we'll go to the next topic and the next topic. Let's start off with something where, you know, my goal a lot of times with entrepreneurs, there's a lot of, you hear people that say, there's one thing I don't do politics. I don't even want to follow it. I don't want to do anything. I'm sorry, if you're an entrepreneur, you're paying taxes, you better pay attention to politics, because one regulation could affect your business. I can't tell you how many CEOs call me and they tell me, well, you know, this one regulation changed the game for me and our revenues dropped 40%. Well, you should pay attention to some of the stuff that's going on, and rather than just saying, well, I'm not going to do anything with this. So let's talk Brexit and let's talk EU. This is an event that took place a couple of years ago, and I think there's like 7 other countries right now that are trying to separate themselves from the EU. Somebody watches this on YouTube. They watch this other places. They hear EU, Brexit. Why are countries part of EU? What is the benefit of being part of EU? And then let's talk about Brexit. Why are some countries wanting to be part of EU?
EU, this idea that you can join a group and you are better in than you are out. You're better as a group where you're combining your strengths as nations, that you work together so you have common security, common rules and regulations, common understanding, that idea, which sounds very noble, a common market and a common currency, the euro. But as a staunch Brexiteer, so I get called the female Farage quite a lot, which is annoying because he has really bad teeth. So on the 23rd of June 2016, we voted to leave. 17.4 million of us voted to leave. Really great people. So England and the United Kingdom is made up of 2 places. One place is called London. Londonistan, as I call it, for obvious reasons, as you'll have seen coming from the airport. And the rest of it is called the rest of the UK, where I live, where lovely people live, where regular Brits live, people that I really identify with. And for people in the rest of the UK, a lot of us voted leave. And what's been very traumatic is spending 2 years, which we're at now, still waiting, still not getting to actually leave. Brexit hasn't happened, and it looks increasingly like it won't. And that's a very challenging thing for many of us, because it challenges our very belief in democracy itself and our social contract. But the question is, why did we want to belong? Why do some people want to belong? You know, some people, the people that live here in London that are doing very well, thank you, are, you know, the elites, the establishment, the people that are very wealthy, living in the biggest houses in the centre of London, old London.
Who are pro-staying with
EU?
They're
pro-staying because their lives are great, they're rich, they have lives that they don't want disturbed. If something's working, why change it? You get out into the periphery, the rest of the UK, where we are overwhelmed with migrants. You can't get an appointment for your dad at the doctor's because there's too many people on the wait list. You can't get your children into the school down the road because the wait list is overwhelmed. And you start to really feel like you want your country back. And that was the divide between London, the rest of the UK, and the people that I know.
So, but Katie, so what is the benefit of being part of EU? So, I mean, I understand, it's 28 nations minus Britain, let's just say 27, whatever way they put the numbers. What is the real benefit of being part of EU?
I think the real benefit that people see is that they can have the fluid movement of people. They say it's a massive benefit to be able to move freely across the whole of the EU, that you don't need to have a visa, you can go and work there, you can live there, and we can benefit from migration into our country. They say that there is a net benefit to be gained from every migrant that comes to this country. Obviously,
there's a net benefit we get from every migrant that comes to this country.
That's what they say. And of course, I would say the opposite of that. And we end up stuck in this sort of place where you say one thing, I say the other, but neither side is listening nor changing each other's views.
Is it a method where the EU will say, hey, Croatia, you got to take these 100,000 refugees, and you have no choice?
Yes.
And if I'm Croatia, I don't have a choice.
No, you don't have a choice.
Benefit, you're part of EU. If we were a country, we are the third largest, most powerful military in the world combined if we're part of EU. But if you're part of EU, you have to do whatever we tell you to do.
So I'm Angela Merkel, although obviously I'm not, because I'm not ginger, I'm not autistic, and I couldn't kill both my parents in the night, still turn up in a pantsuit in Brussels at 7 a.m, which Merkel could do without any challenge whatsoever because she's crazy. But if I'm Merkel, I've taken 2.5 million migrants from God knows where, half of whom might be jihadis. I can now say to you, and you are Hungary, take these people. And you have to say yes, although luckily Hungary and Orban have said, no, we won't. So I love Hungary. I love Poland.
So that's the challenge. The challenge
That's
is you're forced to make the choice.
You belong, so you get the military, you get the security, you get the shared airspace, shared understanding of this, you get the technological advantage, sharing in science, you get migrants, blah, blah, blah. But the disadvantage is you get told what you have to do. You have to pay your money. You have to pay in even though you might not receive it. And, for example, the French can fish in our waters, which my Cornish fishermen friends aren't particularly fond of.
You can only touch, 20% of it, right? What's the number that's out there on your own water? You can't go fish. That just makes no sense to me.
And Macron just came out and said, we are still going to fish in your waters when you leave. So
we are still going to fish in your waters when you leave.
And Spain just came out and said, and we expect to take some sovereignty back on Gibraltar.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the worst thing that can happen if Brexit does actually become a reality? What is the worst thing that can happen in Europe?
The worst thing that can happen, I see no bad thing that can happen. The only thing that could happen to me is it encourages a whole bunch of other people to leave, which is precisely why they don't want us to leave. And I think the great thing, the media keep using the narrative, we crash out of the EU, we crash out with no deal. We don't crash anywhere. No airplanes are going to come falling from the sky. We will politely leave in a very British way, apologise when someone else stands on our foot, and we just walk out the door. That's what no deal means. We don't even have to pay to leave. But for some God only knows reason, our establishment won't let us leave. I truly think Brexit won't happen.
Is it the worry that's going to be 27 against 1? Is that what the worry is? Is it a worry of war? Is the worry of trade issues where people are not going to want to do business? Is it going to affect the money people, the establishment,
it's
wealthy
the money
in London?
People, yes, it's the wealthy in London. Status quo works for them. The situation as it is now works for them. Okay. Why mess with what you don't need to mess with? For the financial markets, it's a prudent thing to be part of the EU. Why destabilise that? Why challenge something that's working?
So in America right now, obviously we're going through with China. You've seen the tariffs on what's taking place there. And some established CEOs are concerned saying, hey, you know what, we're being affected by this because this is trade. Like we want to do business with them. They produce product for us cheaper. They do this, they do that. And Trump is saying, well, yes, at the same time, these guys have been taking advantage of us for so many years that we're standing ground. So I can see what the business owner is concerned about currently right now. Is that similar to what the Brexit situation would be with EU?
Yes, the anxiety of, always change. Change in any business model it creates some level of disturbance in the business. Sure. It's hard to make projections. It's hard to make long-term or cash flow even. Forecast for cash flow is a difficult thing to do when there's going to be change or a dynamic in the business that you can't plan for. But I think sometimes in life we learn you have to take short-term pain in order to, and it's what America's trying to do with China, I think, take some short-term pain in order to establish yourself as someone that isn't going to have these huge trade deficits where China's clearly taking the mickey out of America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're seeing that, and you see it in the numbers. So ideally,
Germany too, actually, with America.
I see that as well. I agree. So on the EU side, the smaller countries want EU to stick around because Greece is being taken care of, and hey, you're taking care of me. I don't want the big guys to leave because their money is funding us. So Is EU helping bail out a lot of small countries as well consistently, or no?
I mean, I'm such a Brexiteer, you aren't going to get a positive from me on the EU.
No,
and
no,
you're
my
probably not
question
going to
is
get a reasonable answer.
No, but my question will be the following. It reminds me of taxes, which is the ones that are working hard, making them, like California, you're paying 57% in taxes, and then you're paying that additional 13.5 for living in California, you're paying some people that are not paying taxes, right?
Yeah.
So is it the larger countries who are growing, being prosperous, they're taking care of countries like Greece and bailing them out for their bad habits? Is that kind of what's going on with the EU?
Well, I mean, Greece, I mean, to my knowledge and having spent time there, you know, Greece was utterly more or less driven to the point of collapse by the EU because it has these punitive regimes for repayment of debt, and Italy's just going through the same. Italy is trying to move its country forward and the EU is penalising them because it's saying, no, you need to have a budget that helps to pay back your debt, whereas Italy wants to expand, it wants to go into kind of a movement of growth, and the EU saying, no, you have to make these contributions, we need to keep your country poor. So I can't honestly, for the life of me, find a positive for the EU, but that's because my feeling of hatred towards the way we've been treated because we have not seen Brexit delivered is so strong. And I would love the whole thing to be broken up. I would love for the EU to be broken up, for it to fall apart, because I cannot abide to see Germany and France telling other countries they have to give up their sovereignty, which is exactly what they were talking about last week.
So that's interesting you say that. I guess one of the questions I would have for you would be the following. And I don't have an answer for this. I'm just curious to know what you're going to say about this. I went from Iran. We wanted to get a green card to come straight to America. We couldn't get it. We escaped Iran 6 weeks after Khomeini died. We went to Germany. And I lived at a refugee camp for a year and a half. And we had refugees from all over. And this is Germany. And then from there, I come here. So I created jobs in America. This is a good story of a refugee that ended up creating a good economy in America. What do you do to be able to, because I understand the concern on the other side as well. If we just accept everybody, so what is the solution for it? Because is a solution, in your opinion, 100% no, or is it a better filtering system? And if it is, how do you filter them?
Your story is, I mean, it's why people would find it very hard. If I was a Democrat, you'd be a very spiky fish, because I'd be like, oh, I want to love him because he's a refugee and he came from Iran, and ooh, but then hold on a minute, he's made millions for people and he employs vast numbers of people, and you've made yourself extremely successful and made many people very successful, and Democrats would have to go, run away, he's done too well for himself. That's my summary of Democrats for you. But for me, yes, I think what we need is an immigration policy exactly like Australia, where we don't say, okay, we'll accept free movement of people from anywhere in Europe. If you're French or Croatian or German, you can come here, you don't have to show anything, you just come on in. We don't do that anymore. We open the UK up to the whole of the world, and we say, if you're in India and you are brilliant at what you do, come show us, earn the points, a point system of immigration just like the Australians, and if you've got the skills we need, you're straight in. If you're going to work in our NHS and you're a brilliant doctor, you're straight in. It doesn't matter where you come from, you're welcome to our country. And that point-based immigration system is what Australia's run on and why they've been so successful for years.
So an immigration system based on points.
Points. It's a point-based immigration system.
What value am I bringing to your country?
Yes.
You come in.
Yes, and so I would score very, very poorly right now. I'm of an age where I'm over 30 or whatever. That means you score less points because you're going to be a cost at some point in the near future. You know, am I going to employ a lot of people? Probably not. I would score very poorly. You, on the other hand, would score magnificently. We'd be trying to drag you here, saying, please come. And that seems to me, that's the perfect system for our country.
That sounds like Atlas Shrugged is what it sounds like. I don't know if you've read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. So the whole John Galt, where let's create a community of people of the best talent, right? Are you kind of pro that? Are you?
Yeah, well, and not even the best talent, because I think so often some people have the best talent and we should definitely grab them. Some people just have this incredible work ethic, which is probably where your parents fit in, knowing a little bit of who you are, probably where are those are first generation immigrants that came here originally from India, from Africa, they grafted, they were the hardest working, they would outwork any British person. That kind of spirit is what we need, not just the best talent, but someone who's grafted so hard they want to work. That's the sort of people I want. And am I excited that 95% of our Somali immigrants here in the UK are unemployed? No. Am I excited that 80% of our Somali immigrants and females don't even speak English? No. That's a real problem, and it's a problem we need to be talking about.
So why would somebody pose that idea? Why would somebody say, no, I don't like the idea?
Because I'm a racist, xenophobe, bigot, misogynist, white supremacist, Nazi, and you can't possibly suggest people need to be good at something to come to your country because it's not welcoming and it's intolerant.
Got it. But some may say that, the whole multicultural thing, wouldn't that go against the multicultural thing? You're not saying that you're against multicultural.
No, I'm saying India, come. Pakistan, come. Come here. Singapore, come. If you are great at something, get here. But if you don't mind, if you're a jihadi,
right,
I'm not that interested as it goes. And if you're a Somali who doesn't want to work and whose 8 wives aren't going to work either, not that bothered about having you either. And if you're going to come across illegally via the channel and pretend you're Iranian, as we've had 32 already this month, no, you're not going to come either. Like some fairly basic principles about what might be good for my country, and that's, I think, a little bit the makeup of Brexiteers. We aren't actually these crazy racists. We just really quite like some people here that want to work hard and do good things for the country because we actually love this country. Like, I properly love my country. I've signed up to fight for my country. I couldn't do it because of my epilepsy, and so I fight in another way now. I love this place. And if you aren't working and you think I want to pay for your healthcare, no, I don't. Same with my problem with fat people. If you aren't prepared to look after yourself, am I prepared to pay for you? No, I'm not. It's very basic rules for life. Back to my rules.
What has changed from what you've seen the last 20 years with UK?
Yeah, this place, I don't even recognise the country I grew up in anymore. I don't recognise it. I can land at Heathrow, people land at Heathrow, and they say to me, I don't even know what country I landed in. You walk down a street 2 blocks from here, you won't know you're in the UK. That is Lebanon up the road, and there's no problem necessarily with that other than it isn't multicultural. We don't have multiculture. It's a word we just got given and we have to pretend it's real. The UK is a nation of ghettos. I could take you now in a car to the Somali quarter. I can take you to the Afghan quarter. I can take you to the Eritrean area. We are completely divided, and everyone brings those old enmities, old rows, old fights with them. I saw this in the migrant camp at Calais when I stayed there. You don't arrive looking for a new life. You arrive wanting to find what you had at home, and you bring your old fights with you. I don't recognise this country. I get emails from elderly people, 87-year-olds, and this might be the first time they've gone on their grandchild's email to write this, and they say that they're glad that their time is nearly up because they won't have to live to see their country fall. That's the heart of this country, is elderly people who don't want to live to see the end point. That's where we're actually at.
How do you prevent that? Like, how you said if we have a point system, and you have a point system to attract the best talent from your doctor, your job creator, your hard worker, come on down, you score a point system like Australia and come down here. Let's just say I do score high. I'm still gonna bring my hometown culture, etiquette, rituals. I'm still gonna bring that to you.
But we're joined by something then. We're joined because we're joined by the ethic of work. We're joined by needing to probably have a common language that we share at work. We're joined by the fact that you want to bring your family and you want them to belong, as opposed to keeping your wives, plural, inside the house. That's what we currently have here.
If you think about New York and LA, right? In LA, you have Chinatown. You have a town where it's all Armenians. You have a town where it's, all Hispanics. You have a town.
You have Skid Row. No one talks about that.
That's right. We go to Skid Row. We went Skid Row for many. Skid Row's a whole different story. New York, same. Italians, Irish, right? They have the same thing going on as well. But if I'm coming to UK. Hey, I want to be a citizen of your country one day, but I'm a Muslim. I'm a person that grew up Baha'i. My religious beliefs aren't necessarily the Judeo-Christian beliefs that I have. You don't mind that part? You don't have a problem with that? Are you uncomfortable with Muslims coming to your country?
Be what you want. You can tell me you're a unicorn on Fridays and a vegan on Tuesdays. None of those things matter. They're just parts of who you are. As long as we're joined by a vague respect for British values and a notion that you're here to do this country good,
how do you find
there's
that
no
out?
problem.
How do you know if I'm on the same page with your values? Because
work is a key. Work is an ethos.
So you're gauging it based on work.
Work think it's an ethos to me that defines so many of the values that which we have in common, that make us who we are. They make us get up in the morning, turn up, be vaguely civil, probably have a shower at some point during one of those days, and try and learn a language that you can converse with at your place of work. Very fundamental things that we've lost in this country right now.
So what if let me give you a completely different perspective. Are you comfortable with this? What if we do the point system and 300,000 Muslims from Saudi Arabia, from let's just say Dubai, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, hard-working people who believe in entrepreneurship and capitalism, they all score high on the point system that you have in place, but they're all Muslim. You're comfortable if 300,000 of them come here, you have zero problem with that?
Not zero problem. There is a problem with that in the sense that I would need to be clear. I would want to be clear with, if you're now representing 300,000 Muslims, we'll go with that.
But I'm scoring high on your point system.
Yes, and I've got that, and I love your points, but I'm going to let you know that Britain is a Christian country with a Christian culture and a Christian heritage. I'm going to let you know that you're free to practice your religion, but at no point will your religion dominate my country. At no point will your right to a mosque override my right to have an art centre that you've just taken over. You can't control it. It's a tough thing. It's what we're seeing here.
What I'm saying is, how do you can't control that? Because
but what you can say is, as they are now doing with Geert Wilders, with the Freedom Party, is to start to row back on the ability of the Muslim culture to completely take over our own, and that's something we're fighting against all the time.
Don't you think
I'm fighting that?
Don't you think
single-handedly
all
for
by
Britain,
yourself?
like this, like an angry woman in a paper bag.
Well, I mean, you and Nigel are on the same page on a lot of different things.
I have better teeth.
Yeah,
Just
better teeth. That's
that.
it. You made it very
Acknowledge
clear
that.
at the beginning. Yes. Isn't that part of the ambitious? Like, if I'm more ambitious than you are, and I want my religion to grow more than yours,
yes.
you can't prevent that.
Well, I haven't been doing a good job of preventing it, but I need to do a better one. So I'm going to say to you, yes, okay, you can have an Eid message from Sadiq Khan, but we're going to have a Christmas message from the Prime Minister. Have you seen Theresa May's Eid message? Literally this year. She looked like she was in a hostage video. She was literally thanking our British Muslims so hard, she looked like she was taken hostage by Al-Qaeda. I was like, blink twice if you need help, Theresa, blink twice.
Even your mayor, think about your mayor.
I don't even want to think about my mayor.
How do you feel about your mayor?
As useful as tits on a nun.
Yeah, it's pretty useless.
He is knife crime up by 75%, murders up by 82%. He is the most useless mayor we have ever had, but because his voter base are Muslim and London is a densely packed Muslim community, he knows he can get back into power. He doesn't need to do anything but placate the Muslim voters who will vote for him. Hence we had an Eid party just over there down the road at Trafalgar Square. A party thrown for his Muslim voter base because they'll vote for him.
Doesn't that mean the point system may not work?
Well, no, it means that we need to do a much better job of defending our Christian culture, and very clearly we've let that fall in the UK.
I think the Christian culture is more passive than the...
Yes, I agree with you.
I think the Christian culture, I had a meeting with a group of pastors I think we were in Newport Beach is where we were at, right? And we got up and I started speaking to them about what I think the Christian churches are not doing right. I think they don't support each other anymore as much as they used to. Businesses don't help them. It's very much of, no, my congregation, my congregation, my congregation. In our congregation, we believe in sprinkle, we dip, we do this, so many different things. And the Muslim community sounds, they're more united than the Christian community, and that's why they got, 1.5 billion people around the world. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around 1.3 to 1.5 billion people around the world. I see more ambition there than I see on the Christian side. So I don't think this is a issue of religion. More the leaders at the top are not as ambitious as the other ones. So how can you, if it goes at this pace,
and it is going at this pace.
By the way, donations on Christian churches have been flat for a long time. It's not going up. The only denomination that's grown, not the only denomination, there's a few that are growing. LDS Mormonism's growing very, very fast. Their denomination, the way they support each other. If you come out with a movie, I have to go watch it. If you have a business, I don't see that with the Christian, but I see a lot of that with the Muslim community.
Yeah, of course. Their plan, and I've just seen someone put a GoFundMe up for another mosque to be opened in the upper reaches of Scotland, in some way out of the way island. I'm hugely uncomfortable. I'm hugely uncomfortable by the fact that they beat the target by an extraordinary amount, which makes no sense, and I'm uncomfortable about it because they're colonising Scotland as well, in my personal view. Well, because I always want to ask Muslims, it's my big question, you know, if Islam is so fantastic, why do Muslims always come to Christian countries for refuge? Why?
To convert. I'm going to places that are non-convert. I'm not a Muslim myself.
No, I'm not.
But
I'm not accusing you.
No, I'm processing it as a question to give you my own theory. I'm coming to convert. Why go to a place when there's all Muslim? I want to come and convert you.
Yeah. So then why do we let people in to convert our Christian culture? At what point did we become appeasers? At what point did we go from being Winston Churchill, blah, 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 our darkest hour, fight them on the beaches? How do we go from that to all of those people out there right now that are happy to lie down, let our country be taken over, give sovereignty to Spain, tell France it can fish in our waters? What became of us? Where are my strong men? Where are my British men? It's what Americans ask me all the time. What happened to British men?
If I have to put it on somebody, isn't that the fault of the churches being united on the same page to be just as ambitious and competitive to want to drive their message out? Because in reality,
and for people like me who haven't been religious enough.
But think about it. Think about this. You believe in free enterprise.
Yes, of
You're
course.
pro business, pro capitalism. Yeah, myself as well.
Ruthlessly so.
So competitive. Let's see who produces better
Yes.
product. If you believe in capitalism and pro competition, isn't there an element of that in religions as well to see who's the most competitive to be able to convert the most people? Because if that's the case, they're winning.
They
If that's the
totally
case,
are
and the
winning.
Christians
I'm
are
very
not
well
winning.
aware of the fact that the Muslims are winning here in the UK. It's the thing that's terrified me for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
The only difference is, of course, the Christian faith, as well as being more apathetic and not fighting for our Christian culture that so many of our forefathers did decide to defend, is that our religious scriptures, our Bible doesn't actually go out and tell us to kill non-believers. You know, that's what those guys are reading, and that's why it's been very disturbing for me to see our daughters blown up just up the road here at Westminster Bridge, to see our daughters blown up just up the road and stabbed at dinner on London Bridge, and to see all of our daughters blown up at Manchester at a concert. That is linked to that religion, whether they distance themselves from it or not. And it terrifies me that my country has fallen. And my message to America is always, do not let yourselves fall as we have fallen. Do not let yourself get to the point where you're getting emails from 87-year-olds saying, I'm glad that I will die before I see my country fall. And I look at Minneapolis or mini Somalia, and I look at Minnesota and what you guys just did in your midterms, and you can't see it coming, that you just changed your rules on headwear just like that. Just like that, Ilhan Omar walks in, boom, change the headwear. You know, that's the start point. You start to submit, you will capitulate all the way. That's how I feel.
And that's a good assessment you're making. I think Europe is a testing ground for U.S.
Right. Well, then be scared.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That if somebody's watching this, first you test your methods here, and then we're going to come to the big dogs, big boys in U.S. and say, hey, let's see if we can go against them. That's almost what it seems like.
And that's
happening.
the message from South Africa. I spent 3 weeks with South African farmers being hunted off their land now. You know, they say they have 2 years left before there will be no whites in South Africa. And the message from South African farmers is, do not lay down your arms. You know, they will come for your arms. And of course, the Second Amendment is the thing that they come straight after. Do not lay down your arms.
Well, you know, for me, I'm a proud Armenian, proud Assyrian, proud Iranian, and proud American. It's like a bipolar relationship. My parents are Christians. I was born and raised in Iran. There's a part of me that has affinity connected to the Shah and what the regime of Iran was at the time, where everyone around the world the rich people used to go to Iran and party, and Frank Sinatra and, you know, all these,
and the women
Elizabeth
in their bikinis.
Taylor and their
I've seen
bikinis,
that.
and the, you know, ambassadors dating Elizabeth Taylor, and just, it was like one of those things. I have a Persian boyfriend, you know, there was a certain class and certain thing to it. And I'm not saying it's not there today. I'm dying to go back to Iran myself to experience it. I want to go back and say I haven't been there since '89, but I see some of that. So why don't we transition to a different topic here? Let's talk a little bit about your love and passion and support for people who are overweight, who are carrying some couple 100 pounds of baby fat, you know, or stones, as you guys call it here.
Stones.
Where did that come out of? When did you start talking about that?
So I'm not a fan of fat people.
Okay, tell me why.
And I call them chubsters. You've just been on a flight. I mean, I'm sure your seat was lovely, but, you know, when someone else carries their leg on your leg on a flight, or someone's arm is on your arm in a flight, that it just makes the whole of my skin crawl.
What do you actually tell them when they're sitting next to you? Do you say
Oh
something
no,
to them?
I go. Yeah, I'm gone. I ask for a different seat. Yeah, I don't travel with someone else's body parts on me. No. I'll press the button and call for help. I will say, sorry, this person.
How often do they help you out and they accommodate
Oh,
you?
they'll move me because they can see I'll be a problem. But I'll say, this person, sorry, next to me should have booked 2 seats. They didn't. Now they're taking up half of mine. I need to be moved. I'm straight up with that. That's no problem for me. Because when I check in, we have these budget economy airlines, I don't know. And like when I check in a bag, I have to pay like $30, right?
Mm-hmm.
So look, I'm £130. I'm paying for my bag, which is probably £20. I'm paying you, not you, but someone who's very large like you, who's like £250, you're not paying for this that you're carrying on with you, but I've had to pay to check my bag. Economically, we would both agree that model is flawed. I am being penalised for being skinny.
Interesting.
So my view is that when you check in, you weigh in. So you weigh in at check-in and you do a cumulative total, you plus your bag, me plus my bag, and then you see if we need to pay. So if you're a fat person with luggage, you're going to pay more, and that suits me fine. And economically, that principle is correct because you're internalising the externality of the fat person. Second up, I'm £130 to prove, because people say, oh, you're so lucky to be skinny. You're so lucky to be skinny. You're so lucky to be skinny. And I was like, no, I'm not. If I sit on my ass, what do you call this? Bottom?
Yep.
Bum?
You call it bum, we call it ass.
Ass. If I sit on my ass and I shove food in my face, I too can be fat. And so I did. So I put on half my body weight. I put on 60 pounds in 3 months.
You did that?
Yeah. I was huge. And I took it off again in 3 months to prove that fat people are lazy. So that I'm not lucky to be skinny, but if I do what you do and sit there, I can be fat too. And I was really fat. It was called Fat and Back. It was a documentary. It won awards.
So let me ask you this. So what do you say? What do you actually tell people who you meet that they say, well, it's a what's the word? It's a
genetic thing.
It's either a genetic thing.
Well,
it's something I struggle with. I struggle with depression.
Runs in the family.
Runs in the family.
I take medication. Yeah. It's not my fault. All the excuses. That's why I did Fat and Back, to say I was on medication. Christ, as an epileptic, the meds you take are off the chart. Big bones don't run in the family. Like if I x-ray you, your bones are the same size as mine. That's just a fallacy. When you say, oh, I come from a big family, yeah, that's because all your family eat like elephants and eat half the fridge on a Friday because you're all fat together. It's not that it runs in the family, you're just all greedy. Like, get over it. So it was just about, if you walk a bit more and eat a bit less, you'll lose weight. And people did.
Have you heard of Lululemon, the brand?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I was.
Oh, yes, it's that really nice stuff.
Yes, right, the really nice stuff.
But you know the problem with that stuff? Fat people put on that stuff, they feel more comfy, they eat more. That's why, if you're fat, you should always wear a tailored trouser, because it'll hurt your stomach when you start stuffing your face.
A tailored trouser.
This is a
tailored. It doesn't stretch.
It doesn't stretch.
Yes.
And that's the thing I learned when I was fat,
Yeah.
is all of a sudden you go into this weird wear, which is not really a size, it just expands to fit.
You know what the founder said? The Chip Wilson, I was with him a few weeks ago.
Were they beautiful and thin?
Yeah, I mean, he's in shape,
That's what
he's
I'm
in his
saying.
60s. He's in his 60s and
You
he's
try
in
a
shape.
fat person in Lululemon, doesn't look good.
But here's
Not on brand, I'm telling you.
Here's what he said. He predicted, he said, in 20 years, everyone's going to be in shape. He says, because we're creating so much predictive analytics that if you're not, everyone's going to know why you're not in shape.
Yes.
So that's his...
Well, this is my big thing, because of course, this, in an American sense, I sound jolly mean. In a British sense, if you think that I'm paying my taxes into a national health service, I'm paying for you, if you're a fat person, I'm paying for your new hip, your new knee. I'm paying for your gastric band to try and stop you eating. And I don't want to pay for that. I don't mind if you're fat and you want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it. And if we just had a social insurance system where if you ran to work, you got points. If you ate a salad from this place, you got points. If you cycled or joined a gym, you got points. And that way you were incentivized to keep, use an economic model to drive good behaviour.
That's what we do at our office. Everybody has one of these. We bought one of these for everybody, and we pay bonuses every month if you have steps every month. So what I notice, I come to work and I'm seeing my guys lunchtime. They're walking 1 hour. I'm like, wow, look at this. I lost 18 pounds.
And you reward them for that.
Well, no, we pay bonuses.
You pay bonuses for if they...
Every single month we pay bonuses. We buy these and we give it to you.
Would you employ someone who was morbidly obese?
Would I employ someone? So I no longer hire everybody at the support side. Other people are. But for me, if I'm looking at an executive, I will tell you, if I see that you can't handle your discipline when it comes down to your health, I wonder if you can handle discipline in other areas.
Right.
Because I'm solving for stamina and energy. How long can you last? I can't. If you're going to get tired at 4 o'clock because you're dragging your advancement.
So I tried this on a breakfast sofa. There was a very large lady, and I said, well, I wouldn't employ you because you're too fat, because you wouldn't have the stamina to run my day, and because at the end of the day there may be an odour issue. And because I said this directly to a lady's face, that was seen as being, hugely offensive. Where I think actually a bit of honesty on the planet would be a good thing. We've come a long way from being honest in order to protect people's feelings. And that's not so good.
No, we have a lot of that going on in the States as well. So you briefly talked about taxes. Why don't we transition to taxes a little bit?
Sure.
So how do you feel about the current tax system in the UK?
In the UK, it's for me, I think we should be massively reducing our tax system. The state is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and therefore, of course, the designs of the state and the need to fund the state is getting more punitive on people that work. Because we've decided to open our borders to everyone who wants to come here from Afghanistan and Somalia, the burden on a taxpayer like myself is increasing. We have an increasingly elderly population and fewer people working. So unless we start to majorly reward entrepreneurial talent and reward those who run small businesses, I fear we're going to end up in a situation where we're still going to carry on taxing people to death without ever rewarding anyone.
What is it right now? What is the top line?
40%.
40%?
Yeah, so 40% of your income will just go.
Is that flat for everybody? Whether I make 30 grand a year or make it a million a year?
So it's a sliding scale. Yeah, it's a progressive tax system. But if you're a small business owner, for example, that to me is the engine of this country. Yep. That's the part. You can't obviously give tax breaks to everybody. I understand that, but I think we should be giving tax breaks, tax incentives to small businesses because they're the ones that struggle. And I think some of our employment models as well, your American system is far better. So you have hire at will, fire at will. We don't have that.
What do you mean?
So if we take on an employee, basically we've reached a system where the employee has all the rights, the employer has none. Wow. So to take on an employee is almost like a noose around your neck, because they're going to be very hard to move along or get rid of without them taking you to a tribunal.
Literally.
You can't do what the Americans can do.
California's like that. California's like that.
They always see it as a sort of, it's protective for the employee, whereas of course if you can hire and fire at will, you're more likely to hire someone as well, which is always a thing. And the second thing that I think in terms of a small business and as a small business owner is maternity laws. I really like the laws in the States. I had my first pregnancy in New York, and it was, I think, 12 weeks unpaid leave, I think is your maternity policy. You say, as if...
No, we've had many of them. I think it's around 3 months that they're gone.
Yeah, but your face is like, that's normal. Yeah. Here, you try saying that somewhere in the EU, you're stuffed. So we have 12 months, leave for maternity.
Full-time pay, and you're paying
you're paying for a massive proportion of that, and now you have to give paternity leave for the father who doesn't work for you as well.
See, but I think that actually goes against women. It indirectly hurts
of course
women,
it does.
And the government's
it
hurting them because
them out of the marketplace.
If a business owner is thinking about hiring somebody, they're going to hire a male who is not. So that's interesting.
The point
some of those policies
too.
Don't help them.
And
that's
this
going to hurt them.
The only way to have this conversation is with an American who goes, yes, I get that. You try saying this here in Europe and people are like, well, she's a misogynist, she hates women. What? But the truth is, for a small business, a maternity can completely crucify your business.
So you're for 90 days is what you're saying?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You chose to have a baby, I didn't. I'm your employer. Great that you're going to have one, but I don't want to see the scan picture, and B, I don't want to pay for it. Thanks. Never bring me a scan picture. Not interested.
What's your sales tax this year?
Sales tax in the UK is 20%.
Sales tax is 20%. 20%.
You're not going to like that as an American.
Let me put it to you this way. We're 6 to 9%. Your sales tax is 20%.
Our government is greedy.
But 20%?
20%
I
on
buy a
anything.
car for $20,000. I'm paying $4,000 sales tax in UK?
Yes, or if I'm needing a service, obviously 20% will be added to that.
That's craziness.
Total craziness. And if so, you're now taxed, you're taxed if you earn your money, you work really hard, you're taxed at 40%, so you're taking home 60% of your money. Then you go to buy a car and you're going to lose 20% of your money again on the tax for that car. So that's why the state and the size of the state matters, because they're spending so much of our money.
No doubt about it. The bigger the government gets, the more taxes they got to keep, and
Yes.
the more taxes you have to pay. And what do you get in return? How strong is your military? How great are your roads? How great is your, any kind of public stuff that they make?
And if you asked someone that, in the rest of the UK, the Brexiteers, my kind of people,
Yeah.
how great are your roads? How great is your military? How great are your hospitals and your schools, your public services? How great are your police force? The people in the UK will tell you, this is where we're falling. This is where you can see these services just disappearing before our eyes. Our military is all but gone. I mean, our biggest thing is whether we can accept more trans people into the military. People are obsessed by that. Our police spend their time dressed in, rainbow colours, dancing at pride parades. This need to be politically correct is overwhelming us to the point where our services are so much diminished. We've become a shadow of what we formerly were. And I don't like to talk like that about my country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very obvious you love your country.
Yes.
Even the way you talk about it downstairs and what you said earlier when we started the interview, and the people.
The real people in this country are amazing, but they don't have this voice. And that's the hardest thing.
Who is that? By the way, who's the complete opposite of what you're saying that's the biggest proponent? Like, whose views are complete opposite of yours?
Of mine?
Of yours. Like, total opposite. Like if we have Ann Coulter, we have Rachel Maddow, right? Hypothetically, right?
Yes, you do.
Who's a complete opposite?
Rachel Maddow crying the other day. Her false tears killed me. So if I'm the Ann Coulter, you would want, some crazy lefty from the Guardian newspaper. That's who you need.
Do you have a name? Is there somebody that's...
Yeah.
So I'd love to meet with her.
Oh, there's a range. So like a Polly Toynbee. She's a lefty, but she's not that interesting and she's got bad hair. I'm trying to think of some kind of fun lefty. Maybe a little chubby...
or good hair.
Maybe a little chubby trans person. Let's get a chubby trans person of colour.
No, but the part I'm trying, like, we're reaching out to Bernie Sanders. I want to sit down with Bernie
Yes.
Sanders. He keeps saying no. I mean, we want to sit with Bernie Sanders because Gloria already have a lot of respect for her because at least she sat and she faced up when we had a conversation. Yes, Jerry Springer did. A lot of them did.
But this is always the thing. We never need to, it's always my thing as well. Never need to agree. So to be able to engage in a conversation, we never ever need to agree. That's a universal thought I have. So when people say to me, I don't agree with everything you say, but I think you're this, or I think you're great, or I think whatever. I always want to say, but I never asked you to. I never asked you to agree with anything I said. In fact, when did it become a precursor to debate that we had to agree on anything? We never did. And more people need to kind of suck that up as a message. We don't need to agree to be able to chat.
Yeah.
A crazy lefty in the UK. Do you know, the thing I'm really struggling is because I just can't figure anyone kind of dynamic and fun and interesting.
Okay.
I don't want to offer up somebody to you that will be dull. All the left are dull.
If you know anybody in UK that meets the criteria we are looking for, send me a tweet. You can tag both of us. Her handle is here. My handle is
Chubby.
here. Anybody you think
Trans.
in the UK.
Disabled. Claiming benefits. An immigrant asylum seeker
Here.
from Somalia who's disabled, doesn't speak English, and is claiming benefits.
That'd be a very short
That
interview.
is the opposite me. Yeah. Well, that's what you get. If you don't get me, you get a short interview with a dullard.
Final thoughts. I'm going to give it to you. What are your final thoughts? Final thoughts on how you view things being in the future in UK, either a part of a paranoia or optimism. What are your final thoughts here?
I have massive optimism
Okay.
because I have the fight in me, and that isn't going anywhere. No matter how much they try and crush me with the police, or they can take away my jobs or my home, I'm not going anywhere. 2, we are growing, so the right is on the rise. Geert Wilders, Salvini in Italy, the AfD, Merkel's just been removed from her post. We are building Hungary, Orban, Poland, All of these places are saying no to the EU and the populists are rising up. 3, we have Trump. We look to Trump as some kind of hope and inspiration. Strong borders. I love Trump. I'm going to marry Trump one day. Melania better watch out. And so there's massive hope. And America, and it's the reason I commit so much time to America, is because there's still hope for America. You have not fallen as we have fallen. You still have the right to bear arms. I'm a signed up member of the NRA. So you have what I need you to defend. And I know America can, because America will always believe in God and the land. And those two things will keep you strong. So tremendous optimism for me.
I love it. So that's amazing. I love seeing your optimism in your country, in the world, and even other places. I like the fact that we had conversations, we talked about things we agreed and disagreed, and I can't wait to have you back on talking about other topics when you're in the States or when I'm out here. And if you watch this and you're still watching this, and whether you're upset, furious, saying I agree, disagree, we want to hear from you. Send us a message on Twitter, tag her and tag me, and we will respond on what your biggest takeaway was from today's interview. Having said that, Katie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yes.